Hey there everybody, Nathan Elson here and welcome back to the channel. Now typically on this channel we end up shooting in studio using multiple lights, multiple modifiers, different things where you can learn how to create and shape light to make interesting portraits. But it got me thinking, what about for those of you that land on this channel that don't have a studio to shoot in, or maybe you don't have all of the lighting and the modifiers? What can you pull from this channel as a source of inspiration? So I thought, let's break things down to their bare essentials. And I created an entire series of portraits using nothing but one model, a little bit of black paint, a white backdrop, my Nikon Z6II with a 50mm lens, and I took it all outside on an overcast day. So with that, let's just get into it. All right, so here we are behind the studio on a cloudy, sort of drizzly, rainy day. And Jared, my model, has covered himself in some non-toxic black paint. Now the thing with this type of lighting, when you have this kind of gray overcast day, is it's actually amazing for black and white photography. You get this amazing amount of dynamic range between your highlights and your shadows. There's just so many variations of gray that you can pull out so much detail in the images that you're creating versus shooting on a bright sunny day when your whites are super white and your blacks are super black and everything in between sort of gets lost. On an overcast day with that beautiful flat light, you just end up with so much dynamic range that it's one of the best ways to shoot black and white photography. So when I initially set up for this shoot, I did put up one of my Aperture 600D lights. And my idea behind that was that it would add a little bit of a kicker, maybe give a little bit of reflection on the paint, add a little bit of shadow to the backdrop, that kind of thing. But the second I turned it on, I knew that that was not the direction I wanted to go. I didn't like the way it reflected on the paint and I hated the shadow that it was casting onto the backdrop. So I immediately turned it off and just abandoned that idea. All of that to say that just because you have an idea of what you think will work in your mind, that doesn't mean that you have to be married to it. Sometimes what we think will work just doesn't work at all, and we have to be able to let go of that in order to make room for what we could find if we just took the time to step back from it and just try something else. So super glad that I abandoned the lighting on this and just went with the natural light. It gave me what I had in my head, and I just needed to step back from it for a second and realize that what I was trying to create wasn't what I wanted, and to just let the process kind of unfold and figure out where it needed to be to make that happen. And for that to happen, straight up natural light. So yeah, just don't be afraid to abandon things while you're creating. And then from there, it was just literally setting the exposure on my camera and starting to shoot. Now the nice thing with this style of lighting, when you have this beautiful overcast flat light, is that nothing changes no matter where you put your subject. There is no hot spots, there is no shadows, there is no anything that you're trying to find or avoid or chase or anything like that. You put your subject wherever makes sense for the photo and then you just start shooting. It's the easiest light to shoot in, and for black and white photography, as I was saying before, it is the most beautiful light on the planet. So with that, here are a few images from this part of the series. Now for this second set of images, we went a little bit more fine art, if you will. Jared actually texted me the morning of this shoot and said, hey, I got the black paint and a squid. And I thought, this could actually be super cool. The idea was black and white, contrasty. We'll get some details off the tentacles, just see what happens, drape it across his face and see what we come up with type things. So what we ended up doing was laying him on the backdrop, and this does two different things. Number one, it just stabilizes him so that when he's laid down and we're draping across these tentacles and different things like that, they can hold their position. But number two is it also turns the backdrop into a reflector. So I get this really nice catch light in the eyes because that light is coming down, bouncing off the white backdrop into his eyes, and he's nice and close to it. So you're getting that reflection. It's just adding a little bit more detail into those shadow areas so that we get this really beautiful black and white conversion. And outside of that, nothing changed. I'm still using my Nikon Z6II with a 50mm lens, and I'm still using the same exposure, just moving around, finding different angles. As I said, with this type of light, it's super easy to shoot in. It doesn't matter where you are. As long as you have it dialed in for your exposure, you just start firing away and you can create tons of work in a very short amount of time. And then so now that we've added in the squid, let's look at a few more images from this series. So with that, I just wanted to create this video to show you that you don't need a giant studio. You don't need thousands of dollars in lighting gear in order to create interesting portraits. All you need is a camera, some natural light, and a little bit of creativity, and that can take you a long, long way. So with that, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.